The next thing you want to do is score all of your beveled edges. And you can see when I'm scoring, a lot of clay is being scraped up. You want to make sure you're getting a really nice scored line, making at least an 1/8 inch deep mark. And you're going in X's, so go in one direction and go in the other. So not like this. So you can see a little texture there, but not a lot. You want to make your marks in one diagonal direction and back in the other. And do that on all of your 6 pieces of clay. Mindful of your table space when you're doing this. You don't want to get these dry bits of clay stuck in your slabs, or you don't want them to push in and leave indentations or impressions. I like to work on newspaper because it's easier to rotate the slab, and then it's also easier to lift it up. Now that all of your sides are cut out, beveled, and scored, it's time to put your box together. So you're gonna wanna take some slip and add some slip to all of your sides. Work on newspaper because it is really hard to lift these because of the beveled edges and you don't wanna get stuck to the table. Okay, now you wanna line up this corner, these bottom corners with these bottom inside corners here, and line that up the best you can. You also want to make sure that this inside edge is meeting this inside edge. Occasionally you'll want to slip down a little bit, so sometimes you have to shimmy it up slightly. Okay, then keep making your way around. When you put your next side on, you have to make sure that these corners line up all the way down, and then the same thing with this line meeting this line on the bottom, pushing, kind of pinching with my thumb and my index to make sure those corners are locking together. Once again, lining up the corners on the top, on the bottom, and then these lines together. And I kind of get them all set in place, and then I'll be able to still shift because I'm not completely compressing them together. And while the clay is wet with the slip, you'll still have some movement. Now I'm gonna go all the way around and really push and compress the bottom in, and then I'll do the same with my thumb on one side and my fingers on the other, and walk them up and down the form to make sure that's really compressed. Then I am going to take my scoring tool and I'm going to score on the inside of all these corners, and I'm going to lay coils in all of these corners. So I'm just going in here and texturing up the bottom perimeter and all of the sides. Add a little more slip if you need to. There's still a considerable amount of slip that squeezed out from when I compressed the sides together. So you may not need to add more slip, but go ahead and add some if you need to. Okay, I'm gonna roll out a coil. The coil does not need to be very big. About 1/4 inch thick will be fine, or even slightly less. We're not trying to change the shape of that corner. We're just trying to give it a little extra strength. I usually will get my coil a little bit wet so then I can just easily slide my finger from the top down. Just really glide and smooth that coil in. Don't have the coil go all the way up to this corner. You're gonna go in and coil that after you cut your lid, but you do want the top piece to be able to fit down in there securely. Now I'm gonna go in with my thumbnail in each corner and really compress that coil in and pull out any of the excess that I don't need. Like I said, we're not trying to change the shape. We still want it to read as a square. On the bottom, I'll take the fingernail of my index finger, or if you have a bamboo tool with a rounded edge or a wooden tool with a rounded edge, that's really helpful for getting into these bottom corners and compressing that coil in and removing any excess coil that you don't need. You can also take your well wrung out sponge and run it into all of these corners to really compress that coil in and clean it up. Okay, so you can see in here, all of our corners are nicely sealed. I have come in and compressed and cleaned up all of the corners. You are going to be opening this box back up when you cut your lid, so you can fine tune those edges a little bit more. Now it's time to put the top of our box on. And now I'll just set this down in and slightly tap it, push it down. Now we will compress the outside of our box and clean up our walls. So I'm just gonna take my yellow rib and just go all the way around my form from bottom to top, compressing all of my sides. You can take your sponge and run up the corners as well. Okay, so get your form all cleaned up and compressed with ribs, your sponge, and etc. on the outside. And then you're gonna wanna let this set up for at least 30 minutes so that slip where you had scored and slipped your beveled edges to put this together has time to set. If you go to cut your lid too soon, if that slip is still wet, your walls could wanna tear apart or shift. So we do wanna let that slip set before we cut our lid. So I will be back soon in the next exciting video to show you how to cut your lid. Okay, see you soon. Bye.